to the issue of assassinations. Last week, a U.S.-born teenager became the third U.S. citizen to be killed in CIA drone strikes in Yemen. The 16-year-old boy, Abdurrahman al-Awlaki, was the son of Anwar al-Awlaki, the U.S.-born Islamic cleric killed in a drone attack, along with Samir Khan, a 25-year-old U.S. citizen who was raised in New York and Virginia. After the first two assassinations, the ACLU, the Center for Constitutional Rights, and other groups condemned the Obama administration for assassinating U.S. citizens never charged with a crime. Despite the criticism, President Obama praised the drone strike that killed the cleric Awlaki.
The death of Awlaki marks another significant milestone in the broader effort to defeat al-Qaeda and its affiliates. Furthermore, this success is a tribute to our intelligence community and to the efforts of Yemen and its security forces, who have worked closely with the United States over the course of several years.
Glenn Greenwald, your response.
One of the most incredible things is to watch the President of the United States seize the power to target American citizens for death far away from any battlefield with no due process whatsoever. If you were to say during the Bush years what's the most radical possible power that you could imagine the Bush-Cheney administration seizing, it would be exactly that. It's more than anything else what the Constitution was intended to prohibit, the killing of American citizens with no due process because of their political activities or because of secret accusations. And to watch the president praise himself for doing it and very little controversy over it is really remarkable. But what's even more remarkable is that this is all done with complete secrecy. It is something that the president will not answer questions about in terms of the principles that are guiding this, what legal authority they have, they won't disclose. And then not only did they kill Anwar al-Awlaki, the American citizen, but then 2 weeks later his 16-year-old son, and they refused to say whether or not they targeted that teenager, the American teenager, for death, whether or not they played the key role in killing them. We all know they did, but their secrecy obsession is so extreme that they won't even answer questions. So not only do we have the government targeting citizens for death just on the president say so, we have them doing it in total secrecy without any explanation or response from in terms of questions.
How do you think the U.S. government should have dealt with Awlaki?
Well, for one thing, they could have easily indicted him if they think that he actually committed crimes. I mean, we have incredibly broad criminal statutes that make it a crime almost to get near a terrorist, let alone to be one. So if they really thought that he was actually somebody who was committing crimes, they could have indicted him. They obviously had the ability to find him, which they did multiple times within Yemen. The Yemeni government is essentially a client state of the United States, and efforts could have been made to apprehend him and then to bring him to the United States and try him the way we do with other criminals.
How do you explain, Glenn, why it is that the Obama administration has gone further than the Bush administration, both with respect to civil liberties and targeted assassinations?
You know, I mean, it's obviously difficult to know motives, what motivates any of us. But I think one thing that seems pretty clear is that the Obama administration believes itself to be very good and progressive and enlightened. And when political leaders believe themselves to be enlightened and progressive, oftentimes there's even a greater danger that power will be abused because they find ways to justify what it is that they do and believe that there's no transparency and accountability necessary. So when there was a Republican president in office, President Obama and his supporters had no trouble understanding why oversight and due process was necessary, why it was dangerous and evil to have the government punish people without any proof that they've actually done anything wrong. And yet now that there is someone that they perceive as being good in power, they believe that those checks are no longer necessary. Of course, basic to political science and the American founding and human nature is that people cannot operate and exercise power without checks or they'll inevitably abuse it.
Last week, graphic images of a blood-drenched and shaken Muammar Gaddafi started circulating around the world after the Libyan dictator's death near his hometown of Sirte on Friday. Yesterday, President Obama said Gaddafi's death sends a strong message to dictators around the world.
This is somebody who for 40 years had terrorized his country, had supported terrorism, and he had an opportunity during the Arab Spring to finally let loose of his grip on power and to peacefully transition to democracy. We gave him ample opportunity, and he wouldn't do it. Yeah. And obviously, you never like to see anybody come to the kind of end that he did. But I think it's obviously sends a strong message around the world to dictators that people long to be free, and they need to respect the human rights and and the universal aspirations of people.
That was President Obama on the Late Night Show with Jay Leno. Glenn Greenwald, both the killing of Muammar Gaddafi and then if you could talk about the assassination of Osama Bin Laden.
Well, first of all, President Obama, I think, is one of the absolute worst messengers for that message that he just delivered about the message being sent to Arab dictators, given that right now his administration is actively supporting and arming the regime in Bahrain, which is oppressing its people at least as cruelly as Gaddafi ever did. He announced recently after a phone call with the Saudi prince that the U.S.-Saudi cooperative relationship is stronger than ever. He continues to heap praise on the Yemeni president as he slaughters his citizens in his street. And of course, the Obama administration stood by the Mubarak regime and continues to support military repression in that country as well. American citizens, to some degree, are unaware of these conflicts between his message and his actions, but people in that part of the world are well aware of them. And of course, we had a long and cooperative relationship with Gaddafi as well. As far as the killing of Osama bin Laden is concerned, there again, we had the opportunity to have detained him and arrested him and shown the world what American justice is, to present evidence of his guilt, which is doubted in parts of the world, and to show the kinds of face that we are capable of displaying the way we did, for example, in the Nuremberg trials when we apprehended the most heinous Nazi criminals, and instead of shooting them in the skull and dumping their corpse into the ocean, we put them on trial and established principles that we said would guide us forever. And he passed up that opportunity and instead killed Osama bin Laden summarily, dumped his corpse into the ocean, and then went around beating his chest and praising himself. And I think what that does is it starts to shape our national identity and the kind of country that we are in a way that's not just repellent, but very detrimental to our own interests.
We're talking to Glenn Greenwald. He has written a new book. It's called With Liberty and Justice for Some, How the Law is Used to Destroy Equality and Protect the Powerful. We'll be back with him in a moment.